It's every Thursday at this time that we head on out to talk to Wyoming Liberty Group. Wyoming Liberty Group is an organization down in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Could I go ahead and say, Boyd, a sort of a libertarian-ish think tank? Would that be correct in saying it that way?
That would be correct, I
Okay.
believe.
Yeah, I always like to throw in
libertarian, yes.
Yeah, I always like to throw in the ish in there because when I talk to libertarians, of course they don't all agree with each other, and that's the point of being libertarian. Therefore, libertarian-ish. So, okay, what you got on tap for us today?
I want to talk a little bit about local planning as it applies to most communities. I'm a land use attorney, a property rights advocate, and I'm barred here in Wyoming. And so that's my area of background and expertise. I've studied both planning and law.
This covers a lot of area, but part of it would be, of course, eminent domain, and I haven't talked to them in a while, but I've worked a lot with a group called the Castle Coalition. But then I come out here to Wyoming and I find a whole nother problem, which has to do with federal land and the BLM. And then, of course, here comes this whole Agenda 21 thing. So do you study all of that?
My expertise lies more along the lines of eminent domain takings, and then the planning and zoning process as it pertains to local government. I do want to learn more about BLM and public lands.
Right.
I'm a farm boy. I'd just assume not have to cope with government ownership of the means of production. We've heard that phrase before.
Yeah, well, and of course, but and of course, you've seen how complicated it is in Wyoming when you're dealing with the BLM versus private land. And then, for that matter, people trying to drill on their own land. We have a government shutdown, but BLM is supposed to go out there and inspect, and that's a whole other issue. So what are you working on right now?
Right now, here in Cheyenne, both Laramie County and Cheyenne are going through the update to their local comprehensive plans. That is something that happens in most communities fairly frequently. For example, I looked, and Campbell County up there just adopted a comprehensive plan update in September. Even smaller communities like Powder River County up in Montana adopted an update to their comprehensive plan in December of 2012, so within the past year. So it's not just a big community undertaking, and it's not just a big community issue.
Right. Now, of course, we're going to get, as the town grows, it's going to have updates to its plans from time to time. So yeah, and of course, there are some good things in there when it comes to infrastructure, but what are the bad things?
Well, the bad things is sometimes plans become wish lists for how those who don't really want to pay for anything themselves decide to impose the costs of their standard of living on others.
Yeah, these people can get kind of clever in how they get the city to pay for something that they should be paying for. So let's have an example of that.
Well, for example, you'll see here we have landscape ordinances. People like to have trees, like to have pretty places to walk, and here recently we had a discussion about how many trees each commercial business owner should have to plant per, based on the size of the lot they were building on.
Okay, well, now this becomes a problem because it's my property, and I should be allowed to decide how many trees I want on my property, or for that matter, if I want trees on my property, maybe I enjoy the open the open view and 30-mile-an-hour winds slamming the side of my house. Maybe I like stuff like, maybe I'm a kite flyer and I don't want any trees around my house. Okay, so this steps on personal property rights, doesn't it?
Well, and here in Cheyenne and up there in Gillette and anywhere in the western half of the Great Plains, we have the additional issue of it costs money to put water on trees because trees didn't come with the territory. They're planted here.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. So they tell me, just to pick a number out of thin air, they turn and tell me, okay, we're going to have 6 trees. Okay, well, each tree, it costs me X amount of water, and water is kind of scarce in the state of Wyoming. And, of course, the water bills are high when we're a little bit low on water, so they're not factoring in how much it's going to cost me to maintain according to their rules.
Either that or they're factoring it in and don't care. I mean,
Yeah.
take your pick. But that's an example of an amenity, and that's the term that we're using here in Cheyenne is amenities, standard of living amenities, that actually are using your money in a way that you might not choose to use it, and your property in a way that you might not choose to use it.
Right.
But
I can understand some ordinances, like, for example, if I'm in a neighborhood, I shouldn't have to look at my neighbor with cars up on blocks and junk in their front yard. So maybe there's some community standards. So because that could affect my property values if the guy next door to me is a complete pig.
well, but we already have the notion of a public nuisance and a private nuisance that exist in the law outside of planning and zoning to
Right.
deal with those examples. Those don't necessarily fall within the only within the purview of zoning laws, local zoning laws.
Well, there were a few things that a couple of years ago I came, and I'm glad I'm not picking on them for you dog park people in Gillette, Wyoming. I'm glad in the end you finally decided to do it the right way. There's some people out here who wanted a dog park, and they were trying to get a petition up and going so the city would build a dog park for them at taxpayer expense. And my question to them is, well, if you guys want a dog park, you're the one who bought the dog in the first place. Why don't you get together, buy out one of these city micro parks, which, by the way, the city's trying to sell, make your own dog park. And that idea was actually offensive to these people. But in a lot of cases, between baseball fields for little leagues and dog parks, we're paying for things that other people do that you and I would never do. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't play little league baseball.
No, but my son does.
Yeah.
But I don't have a dog.
Well, there you go. Yeah. But, I mean, if your son is out there playing Little League Baseball, honestly, do you want the taxpayers to have to pay for that? Or because I don't have a kid out there playing Little League, and I kind of look creepy in that uniform, so that's not going to happen. Or would you rather that you had to chip into some kind of a fund for a field?
Well, even different communities take this different ways, and this partly gets back to the notion of why it's important for landowners to be involved in the process of determining whether to build the Little League parks, or whether or not that's even something that really even belongs in the local community plan.
And I'm running on my last minute here. You just hit the nail on the head right there. What we're talking about really is those people who show up to the meetings are the people who ultimately get what they want. And there's a lot of people who want free stuff from the government who are showing up to the meetings, and those people who frankly don't want to pay for somebody else's dog park, where they're staying home. Isn't that really the crux of the problem?
That is the crux of the problem, and then when it happens, there's nothing in the public record that says that there was going to be a problem here.
All right.
And so that's why public involvement is so critical.
Okay. And I'd like to keep talking with you, but we're running out of time. I got a hard break here. I haven't had a chance to talk to you before, but it was good meeting you, Boyd.
Good to meet you too, Glenn.